After my most recent video with Jenna Palmisano and her work on pygmy rattlesnakes, I told her that I wanted to find something bigger, specifically eastern indigo snakes. I've seen pygmy snakes, but now it's time to find some bigmy snakes. So Jenna suggested that I reach out to Dr. James Bogan, who works with indigo snakes in a special program. I got in contact with him, and we're about to head over right now to speak with him at the Oriane Center for Indigo Snake Conservation.
Going into this shoot, I didn't know much, but Dr. Bogan mentioned they feed their snakes sausages. What's up with that?
In the wild, the eastern indigo snake will eat pretty much anything it'll overpower. Mammals, birds, you name it, they'll eat it. But their favorite thing to eat are snakes, other snakes. And they actually prefer venomous snakes of all the flavored snakes. That's the flavor they like the most. And if you look at the nutrient composition of a snake, it's high in protein, low in fat, high in ash, or non-digestible, or what grandma used to say, roughage. But if you look at the nutrient composition, so if you look at a rat that you can commercially buy that's available to feed pet snakes, it's very high in fat. So we're looking at developing a sausage that mimics the nutrient profile of what we'd find inside the stomach of wild snakes.
As team member Abby began to prepare all the sausages for the indigos, all of the snakes were looking out of their enclosures at her. They all knew it was mealtime, and their little faces peeking out was so cute. Just look at them. The main benefits of feeding sausages is that they can control the exact nutrient content of the sausage. And if you think about it, snakes are already sausage-shaped, and indigos prefer eating other snakes, so the result is a sausage eating a sausage.
Yeah, so this is a wild-caught snake, right? He came to us as an adult male. We've had him about 2 years, and you just saw him eat a sausage. So they have a great feeding response and are mimicking the diet probably pretty close with this sausage. If you got
What he was eating in the wild.
what he was eating in the wild, he just went right for it.
That's awesome.
The indigo snakes here are all a part of a special breeding program, using snakes born in the wild and those raised in captivity to make more snakes. We'll get into why they're doing this in a bit, but they do several unique things to raise their indigo snakes. Besides giving their snakes sausages, Dr. Bogan's team also discovered a unique lifestyle change they can make for their snake's benefit.
Whenever you hold an indigo snake, they're impressive, the size, how strong they are. That's a captive individual. If you ever have the opportunity to hold an indigo snake while it's in the wild while doing a project with a researcher, you'll be amazed at how much stronger that snake is than our captive companion.
Why is that?
The eastern indigo snake has been shown to claim a few hundred to a few thousand acres of hunting ground, one snake. So they're traveling a lot. So that's a lot of exercise. We have these nice big outdoor enclosures, but it's still not acres and acres and acres. We need to try to develop something that maybe will help them exercise more.
And how do you get a snake to exercise?
That's a good question. So one of our partners from Auburn, Jim Godwin, he had mentioned that early on in the project, we used to do soft releases. That involved placing them in a round pen for a day or so, and then investigators would notice that these indigos just kept moving while they're in this enclosure. And so the thought was maybe it was because it was round, there's no corners, and they would just keep going. That was interesting. I thought, well, maybe that's that, or maybe just because it's novel. We put an indigo snake in, and he just kept moving. And I thought, sure, first time he's seen it. A couple days later, tried again. We did it several days, and he just kept moving. So the thought was that it's because it's round, there's no corners for him to stop at. So we have collected a handful of retired fish hatchery tubs. We're making some round enclosures to try to encourage exercise. So they're pretty much sitting on the couch eating these cheeseburgers compared to those in the wild that are Olympic athletes, on a keto diet.
And this is a non-venomous snake. I would not be free handling this snake if this was a venomous snake. But despite that, despite them not being venomous, their primary food that they eat are other snakes, including venomous snakes like rattlesnakes. And indigos are immune to rattlesnake venom, which is an amazing adaptation that they have to be immune to venom like that. And this is I'm so impressed by this animal, just to see her and just how impressive this snake is. This is so cool. And it's nice to not hold them in a tube for once.
All of the effort to care for these snakes is really impressive, and I'm not even covering all of it. Along with these outdoor habitats, the center also has a medical bay for snakes that get sick, ambassador animals, a hatchery, a herpetarium. There's even enough space to host a second conservation program for the threatened striped newt. But that doesn't answer the question you might be asking. What's all of this for? Why snakes? Why these snakes? Indigos were relatively common 100 years ago across the southeastern US. They were popular pets, celebrated for their impressive size, beautiful iridescent scales, and gentle demeanor. I mean, seriously, people today would freak out if they saw a child playing with a snake this big. And while indigos are still present in the pet trade, they've nearly vanished from the wild due to habitat loss. Nowadays, large sections of their habitats have been restored and reserved, and that usually leads to the animal populations recovering along with it. But that hasn't happened with indigo snakes. They're as rare as ever, but the Orion Center, a partnership between the Orion Society and the Central Florida Zoo, is working to bring them back, one snake at a time. The Central Florida Zoo is really proud of all of their accomplishments and wanted to show it off, so they sent me some tickets to give away. If you want a chance to visit the best zoo in Central Florida for free, leave a comment down below. When this video hits 2,500 views, I'll pick a comment at random and send you some tickets. But be sure to leave a comment and a like. It really helps smaller channels like mine grow, so more people can check out what makes Florida so wild. In wildlife conservation, there's this type of project called a species survival plan. If you're a 90s kid like me, you probably remember hearing about a similar program for the California condor. When that started, there were just 27 individuals left. Today, there are 561. That's the kind of success Dr. Bogan and his team want to see with their program. They've already set up several conservation areas across Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Now, they just need to fill them with snakes. The idea is simple enough, but what does it actually take to make it happen? To restore wild indigo populations to their former glory?
What are the challenges of raising indigo snakes that you've encountered in the 14 years that the program's been running?
Eastern indigo snakes are snake-eating snakes. So, whenever we have date night, it's chaperoned. We spend a long time making sure that everyone's getting along. It can take anywhere from 15 minutes or over 3 hours sometimes before they copulate. And then once they do, it's often they stay, we call it locked up for several hours, often overnight. And historically, there have been troubles, or a lot of zoos had troubles breeding the Eastern indigo snake under human care. When this project first got started, the first director here, Fred Antonio, he thought, why don't we have enclosures outside? Because they're native to this region of the world, and so maybe the change in photoperiod or the exposure to the elements, whether it's rain or barometric pressure, who knows what, maybe that'll help with breeding success. And we found that pretty good success breeding outside.
After you've let the snakes breed and do their thing, the danger isn't over just because the snakes have copulated. There's still another issue left.
It doesn't always take. So, just because they bred doesn't mean they made eggs. Then 1 out of every 3 snakes, female snakes, the eggs get stuck. So sometimes they'll lay the first 5, 6 eggs, and the last 2 or 3 get stuck. And we call that egg binding or dystocia. And typically those female snakes need to have surgery or have a C-section and have the eggs removed. That doesn't seem like that it is a natural thing. I don't expect that to be something you'd see in the wild. The odds are, we've actually done the numbers, it's 9.23 times more likely to occur in first-time moms.
Holding and seeing these eggs, it all comes together. Why Dr. Bogan and his team are doing so many unusual things for the snakes in their care, to treat their dystocia and to prepare them for the challenges they'll face when released. Their snakes eat other snakes, so they give them sausages to mimic their favorite prey. Their snakes like to travel around a lot, so they give them a round enclosure to slither in all day. Their snakes like the outdoors, so they build their habitats outside. It's all to simulate being wild, and ideally, that's where most of these snakes will wind up. Is it perfect? No. But it's constantly getting better, and thanks to Dr. Bogan and his team, it's getting hundreds of egg-shaped results every year. Releasing the snakes is a great way to kickstart their population, but it doesn't do any good if they don't start breeding on their own in the wild. And the only way to know that the snakes are doing that is by finding baby indigo snakes in the areas where they release them. To date, the Orion Center has released 363 indigo snakes back into the wild over the last 14 years. And at their site in Alabama in 2020, at a place where indigo snakes have been extinct, they finally found the first indigo snake hatchling in 60 years. And then, in fall of 2023, the first baby indigo snakes at the Apalachicola site in Florida were found. Those little baby snakes give me so much hope. Hope that we as humans can learn from our mistakes. Hope that we can not just restore these populations, but leave them better than we found them. Sure, Dr. Bogan and his team are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but that doesn't mean you can't still make a huge difference for indigos or snakes or reptiles or any wild animal anywhere. You don't need to be a scientist. You don't even need to be a volunteer. All you need to be is willing to learn about our wildlife, how to coexist with them and keep their homes intact. A little empathy, a little understanding. That's what conservation is all about. And that's how we're bringing back the indigo snake.
So I'm Zak Cole.
And I'm Dr. James Bogan.
This is the Eastern Indigo Snake, and thanks for checking out what makes Florida so wild.
If you want to see another snake video, watch me track down pygmy rattlesnakes here. A huge thank you to Dr. James Bogan and his team at the Orion Center, Orion Society, and Central Florida Zoo, as well as Christina from Wellens Communication, Jenna Palmisano, my cameraman Zach, and my partner Rhea for their help on this project. Be sure to leave a comment below for a chance to win those zoo tickets. And until then, I'll catch you on our next adventure.